So this is the discourse on the mindfulness of breathing that we have been contemplating and discussing on this various aspects of it. Now, with my great difficulties, we are on the almost to the last passage, which is the 16th. Last week I explained with my great difficulties on Anapanasti, and I also had to apologize. That much I know, and that much I understood. So that's the Anapanasti. Now today we'll focus on the Patinisagganupassi, which means the relinquishment. So that is, he trains himself to breathe in, focusing on relinquishment, and to breathe out, focusing on relinquishment. So this is the last of this 16 stages of breathing, mindfulness of breathing. This also suggests that how profound Buddha's teachings on the practice of breathing meditation, which oftentimes people talk about it, but have very little understanding of this breathing meditation. Much of the time we'll be just concentrating on long breath and short breath, and that's how we'll be ended with it. And then with that, normally move on to the other aspects of the teachings or other aspects of the related to the life difficulties, probably going into like the dealing with the six senses or dealing with the emotions and the feelings and like that, rather than going detailedly on this like this. So that's why it suggests that how deeply understanding the Buddha, how deeply Buddha understood this practice of a breathing meditation. So we started from the basic concept of how to practice the breathing meditation, from paying attention to the a long breath and a short breath, and how this breath relates to the body and how it creates the bodily formations, and similarly that again relates to the feelings and different feelings, and goes on to realization of the mind. And then after that realization of the mind, we basically from outward going into inward. So an ability to investigate inside in a very tiny particles of this little called mind, and how this mind comes and how this mind arises, what is the condition and how this conditions things to arise. And when we look at that small part of this mind that comes or that creates, then we realize that each moment of this creation of this mind is conditioned, and with that condition it's subject to change. It's changing all the time. So that's why here we have to understand that nothing remains the same. Everything is constantly changing in a flux. Now when we fully understood this flux, nature of this flux, then we understand that why we suffer. The suffering is basically there is a change but inability to accept that change, or understand that change, or see that change. At the very moment when we see that, automatically it develops this dispassion to that particular thing, and having that dispassion to that particular things, then that just drops there, settles there. So it's like if we, who came, when you draw the line, so we see it as a line, but when we zoom in, then we see that it has lots of dots coming together, right? Lots of dots coming together, and then similar way, in our mind also working in that way. That's lots of flicking. So there is creation, arising and then vanishing. Arising, vanishing. So when we see this creation and ending, then in between we realize actually understanding of that gap. I'm not sure whether you understand. So, when I say I am, I is one, am is another. So in between there is a gap. Right? Is there a gap or not?
Yes.
I am.
Space.
Yeah, there is a space. So that space, similarly, if we can see that everything is in that way, everything creates in that way, now in this empty space, if we can maintain it all the time, what is created and what is not created. There is nothing been created and nothing been gone. So that is the natural truth. So when we see that, will you have that as this is like this or this is like that? So there won't be anything. There won't be any volitional actions in it at all. So that's why it is called let the nature take care of itself. So that is a Patinisagga. I hope you understand.
So it means that nature is stronger than us and we have no control over the nature.
Arahant's mind is in that middle state, that is, they see the rise and they see the pass away, but they are in that middle.
So that is
what I want to say, that it is that nature has got higher powers than us, and we can't control it, and that's why we say let it go. We can't.
As long as there is I am, as long as there is we are, that means we haven't seen that gap. We are still caught up into the creation or ending. We haven't seen this little gap. Right? So it reminds me, there is one discourse come. There was one monk, I think, if I remember correctly. His name was Gaya, and his assistant name was Kemika. Right? And then this Gaya, he went through very deep pain. So he contemplated on and contemplated on. So this is my body. This is my body made up with this material, this feeling. This is my perception. This is how I create, and I know this is happening. So his mind is so calm and gentle. And then his assistant thought, oh, I think my teacher is Arahant, the enlightened one. I better go and tell other monks. So he went to inform the 50 monks, those who were staying in that temple. They went and then explained to them, oh, my teacher is contemplating that this body is made of the 5 aggregate. This is a form, this body is a form, my feeling, this is a feeling, this is a perception, this is evolutional action. And this is I know the consciousness. Then the 50 monks say, oh, your teacher is enlightened. Right? Then he comes back. Everybody said that you are enlightened. Then this Gaya, he said, no, I am not enlightened. I still have something. Then he goes back and says, oh, my teacher has I am. my teacher still have this I am. Then this 50 monks say, oh, then he's not enlightened. So like that. So as long as there is this concept of I am, then that means we haven't understood it. Now similarly, I can go back to our previous discourses that we discussed on the sanya, or the perception and feelings. Who remembers Dhammadinna story? Remember? So here also the Visakha and Dhammadinna the story. Here, so Visakha was ex-husband and Dhammadinna was ex-wife. Right? So she became a nun and became an arhat, the enlightened one. The Visakha, who was the ex-husband, he wasn't enlightened. So he asked about the self. He asked about the feelings, perceptions, how perception comes, how feeling comes, and how I am exists, and so on. And then the Dhammadinna explains about these things, and then eventually he said, after you understood this perception and feeling is the cause that makes the mind to arise, then there generates this passion, right? And then with this passion, what comes? The Nibbana, the enlightenment. So then Visakha asks, what after enlightenment?
Oh.
Right? So then Dhammadinna replies saying, this question you should not ask, because there is no after that. It's like when there is this emptiness, what is after that? So you cannot. Like that. So that's why, as long as you have that, then that means we are saying that something has power over something. Like Vasana said, the nature has a power, more power than us, so we don't have we don't have power to control this nature. We also part of the nature. So practice of a meditation is to understand that we are a part of the nature and we cannot deal with it. Let the nature takes care of itself. That is the practice. So when we able to let this, throw it away to the nature and let the nature take care of itself, both the body and the mind, then nothing can be troublesome. Whatever will be, will be. Kind of. But oftentimes it is not the case. We attach to our body, we attach to our feelings, perception, and what we know. So that's what we discussed about the 4 different attachments that we discussed early on. So that's why when we understood the nature, everything is impermanent, then that includes ourself, our body, our mind itself. Then what left is nothing. So that's why the concept is ability.
But it is a little bit depressed.
Little bit of a depressed because you still keep yourself in where I will be, where I am. So that's why you're depressed. If that concept is not there, then it's such a liberating. Such a liberating. So depressed, that's why, is the cause of I want something to be.
And I don't have it.
I don't have it. So that's why I depressed. So
controlling is depressing.
Sorry?
Controlling is depressing.
Yeah. So when we let this nature take care of itself, nothing to worry. Just let it be. But having said that, the Buddha's teaching doesn't mean that, oh, I'm not doing anything, I just sit down and let the death come. No. This is not how Buddha's teaching.
That would be depressing.
So the Patinisagganupassi, that's why it means let the nature take care of itself. So here, comes with understanding the impermanence of it. And when we understand that impermanence of it, then it generally develops the concept of this passion, and then after that, this passion, just let it be. That's why I gave a simile of going to the toilet, and this toilet simile comes in. After you finish your job, will you be passionate about that, or will you let the flush it away? Simple as that. So that's the toilet story. You won't be thinking of, oh, I should not have defecated it, oh, I should not have flushed that away. Right? So, if we understand properly the impermanence of the things, then we see that I am having a suffering because I do not accept the change. I have a fear of this change. I don't want to see that change. And I must be somewhere after it. I must exist in some way. I am. So as long as this concept of I am there, then we're still going back to this toilet and stop flushing. Okay, so that is a Patinisagga. Alright, the last one, last bit of it. And this much I can explain. If we look at from the scriptural point, there are two ways of looking at it. That's which I do not understand, so I don't want to explain that.
Fair enough.
Right, so any question before we practice loving kindness meditation to finish off? Okay, right, let's, in that case, let's practice loving kindness meditation to finish off.